Hello everyone, welcome to Arora 2025 at XLRI. I am Ashish Kumar and it gives me immense pleasure to announce our guest today, Mr. Gagandeep Arora sir. Sir, thank you for being here. Gagandeep Arora sir is a leader who has been at the forefront of India's fintech revolution with over 17 years of industry experience. He currently heads payment at Tata Digital and has previously led product at BharatPe and Paytm. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. So, sir, let's get started with the
Sure.
questions.
Thank you, Ashish. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here at campus.
Yes, sir. So, sir, my first question goes like this. Your career journey from consulting to fintech to product leadership feels really inspiring. If you had to tell that story through just a few defining moments, the ones that shaped you as a product leader, which moments would you pick, sir?
I think when you look back, I think it's been a long journey. Uh, I think one of the reason why I shifted from consulting to product was maybe because of my engineering roots. I was a developer earlier for 5 years, and there was a feeling that you get for the nick for shipping out product and delivering impact.
Mm.
I think that is something that it drove me towards product management from a consulting standpoint, and that has continued since. I think that dopamine hit that you get once you shipping out product, something new which impacts people, their day-to-day life, that is where it becomes a game changer. I think during the last decade of experience working with multiple product companies, I think the most endearing ones is one where I've launched the products from scratch or career defining moments. So those would be more on like when we first built out a fulfillment system for Grofers, or right now known as Blinkit. That was one of the first companies building out e-commerce in India
Mm.
for grocery. Back then, was Flipkart, Amazon, Snapdeal, and bunch of others were there. But making something for grocery was something very unique, which created different unique supply chain to different products there. So that gave me first instance of building out something from grounds up and how it can be used across. And now when I look back, it has in a way defined the overall industry in itself, where now with quick commerce everybody is using the same stack that we had built out almost a decade back. That would be one key moment that I see as. Or I think that second piece would be maybe when I look back would be at BharatPe when I launched a physical product where we had launched our own card offering. So that way it was very unique or different proposition where we made out a card product which everybody is carrying in their wallet. That feeling of having something that you can carry with you, that is something which is very unique and different. But yes, looking back, I think every time 0 to 1 journey has been the most you can say fulfilling journey, while I had different opportunities to scale up and create things that impact. But I guess 0 to 1 is where you feel like you own the product from it's your own baby kind of thing. So that's why it has been very enticing and interesting.
So your 0 to 1 journey is highly motivational for me as well, and my hopefully my MBA friends also. So, sir, moving to the next question. Sir, when I studied your profile, I saw you have built products for both small merchants and digital first consumers. So, along the way, what's the most surprising thing you have learned about the Indian customers?
I think there have been multiple instances where people say Indian customers don't pay, but they are actually more of a value seeker. So if we are able to provide right value to the customer, uh, you can drive the adoption while you might have to think about different ways to make money. I'll take an example like it's one of the companies I worked with BharatPe, where we started off as a payments company, and we are allowing merchants to accept payments. That acceptance of payments is free. We solve for a problem for the merchants, but then they would take acceptance of money from Phone Pay, Google Pay, and bunch of other apps, but they would not willing to pay to us for enabling the digital payment. What we realized is you'll have to find different ways to monetize, and along the way we tested out on features for lending, and lending has become one of the key feature for monetization for BharatPe, where I think last I read 95% of the revenue was coming from giving out loans to those merchants. So India is a bit different market where you might not get your monetization part from the key engagement metric that you're driving in for, but you can find different levers to actually monetize the user base in the ways you would not even have thought initially.
Yes.
But I'll say for any new product, focus is more to get the customer hooked, engaged for, and you're trying to solve a real problem, and then you can find different ways to actually monetize and maybe make a worthy business out of that problem statement.
Yes, sir. This is quite insightful how the Indian customers behave with respect to fintech, I think. So, sir, let's move on to the next question. Sir, as a product leader with PLN ownership, you have often pulled between short-term growth and long-term product health. How do you personally strike that balance, especially in fintech, where trust is everything?
I think there are always constraints on anything that a product which has to be built in. Sometimes it like monetary PNL will bring in a monetary constraint or a resource constraint. But I truly believe that innovation happens when you are constrained. Or if you say like from a typical Indian way, it's like jugaad happens when you are actually having constraints, and that is
Yes,
where
sir.
everyone finds a different way to work out. So true innovation does not need insane amount of resources, and that is where prioritization would happen for things to be done. And also it makes it easier to say no to things that are not required. I'll just take one example. I think what we did on Jugaad was, I think, maybe something that we've touched upon BharatPe, so I'll maybe take an example from those days only. Uh, Back in COVID days, we were seeing a lot of customers, merchants which were facing fraud issues. People would go to a kirana shop and then show a screenshot of Paytm, PhonePe, or some other payment app and say that they have made the payment without actually making the payments. So because the digital payment had adopted, there were apps in the market which would mimic Paytm app or
Yes.
PhonePe app, and you can just enter the amount and it will even make the sounds what Paytm and PhonePe had at the time of making a successful payment, or even animation that they had added just to avoid these kind of frauds. We were seeing those action items, but then what could we do? And there are some places which are obviously had launched sound boxes back then,
Yes.
but it was COVID. We could not get items from China to import in the sound boxes devices, build out a product which will take its own sweet time. There, then we did a innovation where we thought, how can we let the customer know that okay, this payment has been received. So for us, then rather than using a speaker phone, what we realized was your mobile phone also has a speaker inbuilt. What can I do with this feature phone that somebody has in hand? And then we admit there are Android notifications which can trigger not just text typically that we see, there can be even voice notifications. So we created product features on that where whenever somebody made a payment, merchant would get a notification where it said that you have received XYZ rupees from a customer, and it is not using soundbox but the speaker of his or her phone. And that's when we launched something which is innovative and PNL wise constrained. Like if from investment standpoint, it was zero investment from our side for devices or testing out time. So that is where innovation can kick in from even when you are constrained by resources.
So, sir, when I used to visit Kirana stores, I saw many shopkeepers used to face problem in terms of the cost of the soundbox that Paytm or BharatPe used to offer. So, sir, there were some misunderstanding that this product is very costly in terms of cost. Sir, so what when you were in BharatPe, you guys thought that you will?
So I think BharatPe launched the soundbox after me, so I would not be able to comment on how they approached on soundbox pricing piece at that time. But I think it's more about messaging for customer to know what the device is for, and where at least one of the devices that we had launched during my stint was around the POS machine that we had launched. There for the customer, we made it very easy for easy payment installments rather than for the device being upfront payment. We made it more of a free device as well with a different pricing system. Also staggered the device over like a 1 year period, and where they can uh, avail the device for free. So it's not just always about product feature. In some of these cases, a financing option, how do you present of customer the options, that makes a difference. So I'll just take one more, since you mentioned with devices only at BharatPe, what we did was For the devices, we allow customers to actually accept payments for free, even
Okay.
for the POS machine.
Okay.
So the idea there was like you are charged 1.5 to 2% for every card transaction which is happening. We said that if you are keeping the money with us for 15 days, then we would allow you to take out the money for free. If you want instantly, then you can pay the charges. And it gave customer a flexibility. If he preferred something for a lower fee or zero fee, then he can opt that. While if he needs the money instantly, he can go with the fees part.
Okay.
But how we made it feasible for us without actually losing money at our end, we would use the capital with a P2P partner for lending.
Okay.
So if it is kept for 15 days, then we would allow that money to be used for lending purpose. So that way it created a product which is giving value to the customers who's opting without actually creating a dent on the balance sheet.
Okay.
And it's not a pure cashback flow where we are just burning money for acquiring customers. So many people were wondering how we are giving for free, but it was not really free.
Okay, sir.
So customer is creating value, not maybe directly, but unknowingly is investing in some other part where somebody else is using that resources.
Yes, sir. Sir, these insights actually really gives a picture of how the Indian customers behave. So, thank you, sir, for that. So, moving on to the next question. With growth comes exposure. Fraud in digital payments is evolving so quickly. What modern approaches are product teams adopting to stay ahead today?
I think frauds are here to stay.
Okay.
It's not going to be uh, a game where we say that it's a zero-sum game and like one day, it is a utopian world where we say that there are no frauds which are happening.
Yes.
And as the digital payment adoption happens, there would be cases which might happen more. But we'll have to look at it like how much percentage terms rather than absolute terms. So you'll keep on hearing that number of instances where somebody would like or somebody in your own network would have been exposed to a fraud. But if you see overall as a percentage, it might not be that much of fraud which is happening. But having said that, it is an cat and mouse game.
Okay.
So you will always try to look at ways to guardrail and ensure the customer is safe. But even with your best of all intentions, there would be some ways some fraudster would have found a way to come in and find a way out. The concept idea here is to just ensure that we have better monitoring and systems in place to detect it as soon as possible and then act on it. Where I think now changes are happening, not just at I think government of India has taken multiple initiatives with NPCI and other bodies for helping out customers, but I think where overall ecosystem is evolving is with the new stacks, which is with AI. Till now, most of the fraud monitoring and actions are based on certain rules. You say that okay, somebody is coming from certain geography, then this is a potential fraud. Somebody has been doing X number of transactions, then it might be potential fraud. But and some of them are post facto where you say some customer has reported that his card has been compromised, and then you look back on that and block future transactions. But now with the AI, we can do a lot more on dynamic and real-time monitoring of patterns, which can happen, and where these rules are being this insight, which is on a real-time basis, being consumed to actually take more proactive steps in fraud monitoring.
Yes, sir. It gives the insight actually very correctly that how modern product teams should behave with respect to the fraud. And I think, sir, there will be some percentage of fraud present there, whatever best the company will try in this given scenarios of the present world today.
Yes, there would always be. See, even I think people have drawn like 99.999, which but there would be. It's tending towards 100% success that you want to have and lowest number of fraud. But sadly, it takes time to reach there, and there would be some instances where people will find a way. But payments is a game of trust, and everybody is in the ecosystem is invested in ensuring customer is given the right experience without any loss, which can be occurred by him or her.
Yes. So, sir, building on the last answer that you gave, my next question is in the next wave of digital payments, AI powered personalization and fraud detection are converging rapidly. How do you see that intersection shaping consumer trust and adoption? And which emerging skills should MBA graduates develop today to lead product innovation in that space?
I think the product space overall is evolving, uh, not just for payments but for overall industry. But where it for payments, the true success is that payments needs to be seamless and invisible.
Yes, correct.
Everybody expects payments to work, and you don't remember that. Okay, you would not say that. Okay, payments worked and love the payment of this company. You would always remember that. Okay, this is where I got stuck.
Yeah.
This is where I failed, and that's why I did not purchase. So let's say you were buying something iPhone today on some of the sites, and then if let's say payment failed, then you would like, okay, let me just think about it later. Okay, there's something issue, I will not buy the phone. Payments is that final layer when overall uh, customer journey culminates in a way like, okay, there's marketing which would have started for your visibility, and then there would be like banners for the app which would have happened, then there is on landing pages, then there is cart conversion, and final moment of truth when actually the whole company is working towards is getting that payments from the customer.
Okay.
So that is the moment of truth when revenue is booked. So payments is that layer, but that's where it's expected to work seamlessly, and where customer does not notice, and it becomes like just like that.
Okay.
So now when we are moving towards, everywhere we are moving towards is to ensure that payment is seamless. So I think you will see more and more new innovations which are coming in for this tap and pay, which is there, which is coming in offline space, so there's an option. But in online space, you will see a lot more on biometric authentications or alternate method of all. So right now we enter OTPs for our card pages.
Yes.
But then we all have now majority of people have Android phones or iOS. So the new digital phones will like have a biometric authentication. So now government is also allowing for like checking for regulation. So it allows for us to use those methods to allow payments. So you can soon that you will just use like how you are unlocking your phone. That's how you will unlock your payments and make it through. That is one way of looking at changes in existing way of working. While with AI, it's gonna become more and more towards agentic payments, which is gonna totally translate, and you don't even have to talk about having been payments or UX or the payments flows. So it may agents might be talking to other part of commerce, and that's why it will go more seamless.
Okay. So hopefully we will see more disruptions in this industry with the advent of AI.
Yes, the AI is going to change how we interact with technology. It might not be like how Apple changed how we used to interact with technology, right from web to actually brought on things on phone, and everybody has been building on apps. This is a similar disruption which is happening where you might not be even thinking about saying that you want to have a UX where you are searching for some item. Like nobody wants to, let's say like for grocery shopping, nobody wants to go and then say and build out a card saying, okay, I want to go buy this dal, this brand's dal, or this atta, or any other consumption.
Yeah.
You can AI can always identify your cart and then predict that this is the consumption typically, and or you can say that buy me a phone. It will pick out the best website on which that phone is available, and make a payment and go out. So you don't have to say that, okay, I'll open up any e-commerce app, go and search for okay iPhone 17, and then see what's the price, and go to another app and then see what's the price, and then make a payment out of it. The whole journey will be reimagined and redeveloped in an AI world, and that's why payments also would be changing drastically on how that comes into picture.
Yes. So, sir, moving on to the next question. The payment stack is massive: acceptance, settlement, risk, merchant financing, and the UX part. If you had to bet, which layer will see the biggest innovation in the next 3 years and why, sir?
As I said, I think customer facing layer will be the one which will change a lot more, while there has been a lot more being done on the fundamental layers which have been developed over the years of right from acceptance and settlement piece. One piece which would change is how people interact with payment systems. That is something which is going to fundamentally change as the AI takes over and how different products are shaped. Second, I believe movement of money will become much more faster, and how systems across work talk to each other. Right now, we have seen the UPI moment, how any customer payments is done in India, but cross-border payments still becomes is a challenge. How B2B payments happen, that's still a challenge on how people are actually making those payments. So there, the systematic changes will have to be done where those will also become a more of an instant payments, like how UPI has made it so obvious that we now don't remember like how payments used to work before UPI.
Yes.
But if you go to some other country or people like or your college friends, undergrad friends come down from US or any other part of the world, and they suddenly get amazed at how UPI has made life so easy to book, to make payments. Similarly, it's going to happen for B2B payments or even cross-border payments. Those are the next 20 years to unlock, to make it more ubiquitous way of payments.
And sir, I think this is the best case of how digital transformation took place. Earlier, the customers had to visit banks to take out money. Now we have the UPI app, so it's a great digital transformation that we had today.
I think there is, for any transformation to happen, there would be a S curve, like how you see in college,
S-curve.
right?
Yeah.
So that is where it happens. There would be innovations do happen, but then S curve, there are moments which define the adoption of these new innovations, and which just rallies the whole ecosystem. That's like for us and payments industry in India. Maybe when Uber went with Paytm, almost a decade back, that is when digital payment adoption happened for tier 1 customers, and everybody opened up for digital payments with Paytm. That was the first wave. Second wave happened with the demonetization.
Correct.
And third wave happened with during COVID, when you didn't have chance to go out. And so all three of them actually defined on how payments has evolved over the years. And if you see even UPI transaction volume growth post COVID, it has been just phenomenal. So those moments define, so even for other parts of payments or any industry, these moments will define the uptick. The early adopters will continue to join in for new innovation, while the external factors would define on how digital transformation picks up across.
Yeah, sir. Correct, very correct, sir. Sir, so my next question is, India's payments ecosystem has moved so fast. UPI, QR codes, wallets, and now embedded finance. Looking 5 years ahead, how do you see the landscape evolving? Who do you think will own the customer relationship? Is it banks, fintechs, or platforms? And where should product leaders place their bets today?
I think 5 years is, to be honest, very tough to predict.
Okay.
The way things are evolving, I think year down the line is also very tough to predict. Like with now, and if I see how the industry overall is evolving in the tech space, while from a larger fintech standpoints or industry, I think whoever is able to deliver value to the customer, that platform, that layer would win. Till now, banks have been more laggard in terms of adoption of technology, and they are more in the banking services rather than on the technology offering of it. That is where they are picking up, and we'll see how they adopt. But it's more of a change of a DNA for them as well. So if you see top 10 UPI apps, you would not find any of the banking apps.
Yes.
But
correct.
all the UPI is actually powered by banks. You need an underlying bank to power the UPI payments, and they are the ones who are providing the infrastructure layer on top of it. But where the tech companies or fintechs have done well is building out a great user experience on top of it, and finding out ways to deliver value to the customer, which may not have been right for banks to focus on. So there were a lot of customers who are embedded finance, as you mentioned. So there are a lot more customers who were being not served by the existing banking systems, but then cost to serve for the banks with the current structures that they had, with how their operations to technology or businesses were structured. Cost to serve these customers was way too high for banks to target these customers. While with fintechs who have a different cost structures, they are able to make a profitable business while serving these customers in embedded finance. That is where technology plays a way for actually seeing how new companies can actually focus on delivering value. Now, what we were discussing earlier during the panel discussion about AI. So AI would do is it will take away a lot more further on your operational structures to deliver a value. Let's say today it takes me to onboard a customer, it requires me to do KYC. For getting that KYC agent, I'll have to do certain fees. Can I do that fast tracking with AI? Or customer support, I don't need maybe a team of 200. Maybe can I do it with 20 people with human in loop AI systems? So that way my cost structures would be drastically different from what banks would have seen. And with these new technology, with a different cost structure, I can create a business model which is not viable maybe before AI or that technology, and suddenly becomes a viable part of it. So that is where technology and its adoption will impact on how businesses will evolve and how you can make certain businesses which were not viable before a viable offering. So among all three players, whoever is able to adopt in the right way and deliver a value to the customer with the right cost structures, that entity would win.
Okay. So then hope so that in the coming years we will have more sort of responsible AI for all the product development. But
Yeah, I think with every new technology there are use cases which can be good or bad. Even on internet there are, if you want you can use Coursera's or other things to learn, or there are a lot of other activities to distract.
yeah,
So it just depends on how you want to use this technology. AI is also just a technology which is coming in.
yes,
It just depends on how you want to use it, whether for the good or bad. But I think that should not stop us from doing something good and meaningful.
yes. So, sir, moving on to the next question. Reaching rural India is often the toughest challenge. From your experience, what should a product management manager keep in mind when scaling a product so it actually reaches rural India?
So I think it depends on the nature of product and who your core user is. So you don't, if you're making a product which is for rural India, then it's meant to be that way. Let's say like if I take an example from e-commerce, Meesho is where I think has cracked that market and has done really well. But they have been really focused, razor sharp on underserved market. While let's say like for Amazon or Flipkart, tier 1 or tier 2 customers have been the focus.
Yeah.
So that does not mean that they are stopped. Neither of the companies are stopping the other segment to come in. But then that is your focus area is on that particular segment of users. That is where journeys would define. If it's like again, but I'm back maybe from BharatPe, when we were installing, we initially started with customers in tier 1, the merchants. Because that's where most of the UPI adoption was there, or at least that was something that we could target initially. But for us, eventually it became like where our feet on street team members who would acquire merchants, they would go to back to their hometown, and then during those days also they will onboard their friends and family members on our network, and suddenly we were seeing transactions from tier 3 cities where we never had a sales team presence. But then we were seeing like when we drove the maps of like from where all transactions are coming in, and we could see suddenly some part of hinterland coming up and where transactions are happening. And slowly then we realized, okay, we have actually found a product market fit where it is not just in tier 1, it is going beyond. And then slowly you evolve in identifying which segment of users that you're going in for. But it's not really just on the geography, it's just more on other traits of customer behavior cohort that you're targeting on how you build out some feature for them. You can't serve all, that's the hard reality. So you'll have to focus on the customer segments that you are actually delivering value to, while there would be others which would use the product time to time, but the core TG remains the same. That's like if I go and use, not for brutal example, but let's from a customer one product that I love is Snapchat or Snap. Snap is meant for teenagers.
Yeah.
But if I try to use it, I don't find a value for it.
Okay.
But a college guy would be actually finding that value in it,
Yes,
so because that is targeted for him or her, and not for the segment which. But it does not. It's not stopping me from using it, but all the features that it is coming in is for that particular segment of customers.
Yes.
So similarly, for in like we say tier 1 India, tier 2 India, or rural India, it just depends on what's the product segment, the user segment that your product is targeted towards, and that's how your roadmap should be defined for.
So, sir, I think having the clarity of the segmentation of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 is all the game changer point for the companies.
Yes, having the clarity of who is the user is, where they reside is a second degree of effect. But then defining who the user persona is, it can be like you will say that okay, my persona lies in tier 1. Or if that is a differentiation for your product offering. But if that parameter is not changing the user cohort, then the tiering is not something which is going to help from a customer that you're targeting for.
Okay. So, because when we solve cases, oftentimes we divide the population of India, for example, in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Then we try to find out that where our product can be best suited to which tier.
So tier defines on more maybe on paying capacity or the users where they are. But there it would be also depends on what kind of users are coming in for. So let's say like even if you say that I'm making a product which is applicable for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, but cost structures might be such that you end up with tier 1 customer.
Yeah.
So you need to also think about the value that you're creating and at what price point.
Yeah.
And there would be some customers, let's say a premium product if you're trying to launch. There are customers which would be there in all tiers who can afford the product. It's not like if I say a luxury product segment. It's not that all the luxury product users are in the major metros. There are people who would be in tier 3 also, because each city is also has a micro market of people who can afford.
Yeah.
And in India is so diverse that even in a small town which you would know, but some people might not be able to identify on the map as well, they would be also having enough people to drive value.
Correct.
But for the company to focus on, they might just say that we might focus on tier 1 because the density of such customers is high in a tier 1 location. So that's where the initial focus could be. Eventually, as you grow, you will reach those customers even in a tier 2 or tier 3 location. But also sometimes you just have to focus on the density of customers so that your effort to acquire, engage with the customer and deliver the right value is right.
And sir, I think pricing also has a major part to play in this game.
Definitely. And not just for India, it's everywhere.
Yeah. So, sir, coming to the last question of this conversation, to close, if you could give one piece of advice to the MBA students who dream of becoming impactful product leaders, what it would be, and what's one small daily habit they should start tomorrow to get there?
I think being curious is something which everybody needs to look at. How do you solve? How are you able to identify the problems around, and how can different ways that one can try to solve for those problems? It need not be a case study, but it needs to be more around how are you trying to solve for, able to identify those patterns, and how are you able to find solutions for the problems that you're able to identify. But I believe, especially for somebody aspiring to become a product person, they need to create some products of their own. It looks, because product is sometimes maybe looks fancier from outside, and everybody wants to become a product manager because people say that it's mini CEO role. So that mini CEO gives that suddenly an adrenaline rush that I want to be mini CEO, or maybe salaries or something else. But if you are able to have, actually, if you enjoy building products, that is when you'll be able to contribute and grow. And making something of your own, I think is a different feeling altogether. And right now with AI, it has become easier to make something. So that is where it's not just a conceptual part of things. Building out an MVP is actually a lot more easier, and you can validate on those practices to create something impactful. Because a lot of impact work would happen if you are joining somewhere in a mid-sized company where they have resources and are able to create work. While in larger the organization gets, you have a lot more impact, but maybe you are cog in the wheel. But you'll have to identify where you want to get in. But in either of the cases, you need to have that knack of identifying the problem and how should one solutionize it to create something which is impactful. It can be something that you might have faced of your own, and you can create maybe a small solution around it. It can be as simple as saying searching for flight or finding something music that you love. So you can create smaller products which are actually that you can use for your day-to-day work or your own use cases that you feel like, "Oh, I wonder if there was some product which was there." So that's why I think it will be a good start for anybody who's looking to get into product.
And so I think getting the feel of the user pain points is also one of the important aspects that we should look for.
Yes, so that's why if it's your own pain and you are looking for some product, and if you are able to create something which you can use on a day-to-day basis, that means you have solved the problem in the right manner. Otherwise, you are looking either that pain was not big enough, or the solution that you have created is not right enough.
Okay.
So that's where some of those products which you love the most are something which you are able to relate more because they are solving a problem for you inherently. And that's beauty of maybe starting up at least in the B2C space, where you can actually relate to the problem, and now you can build out something on that space. While the fundamentals of solving problem would remain across B2C or B2B, but when you're experimenting, I think B2C products becomes much more easier for you to want to relate to.
Okay. So thank you, sir, for this conversation and the wonderful insights that you gave today. So with this, we end our conversation.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.